Join me as I explore five powerful life lessons that reading The Wheel of Time really brought home for me. These could change the way you see the world. The Wheel of Time, a 14-book series with a prequel. The first book, The Eye of the World, was published back in 1990, and the series did not wrap up until the publishing of A Memory of Light in 2013. An epic fantasy tale with fantastic world building, incredible characters, a rich and complex interwoven plot, and so much foreshadowing that you can read it again and again, always learning something new. Believe it or not, I'm not here to talk about that amazing content today. That will be a different episode. I'm here to share five life lessons that were driven home to me over the years through the literal experience of reading The Wheel of Time. If you've read it, you may connect with these lessons. If you haven't yet, perhaps you've read something else that's on par as a bulky, epic fantasy tale, and you'll be able to understand. Either way, these are lessons worth sharing. Life lesson one, the importance of patience. Robert Jordan began putting out these books in 1990, as I said, and I was already a big fan of fantasy back then. So I was delighted that in my early 20s, I discovered this series. I'm pretty sure I found it back in 1992 when only the first three books were out, and I devoured them. And as I finished them up, oh, look, here comes book 4, The Shadow Rising. I crushed it. And then this incredibly good, delicious, wonderful series, which at the end of book 4 kind of leaves you hanging. You know more important stuff's coming. I had to wait. There was nothing else. It was just over a year before finally book 5 shows up. Now, this was pre-internet for most of us, and I knew nothing about any other ways to find out when a sequel might be coming. I just frequented the bookstore. That was something I did, and I would always check to see if there was another Jordan book in. Now, when book 5, The Fires of Heaven, arrived, I scooped it up and I began reading it, and I'm like, over the past year, my recollection of details has gotten a little fuzzy. I was weak on remembering key things, so as I'm moving in through book 5, I'm not getting the satisfaction I think I deserve. Which began my experience with Wheel of Time rereads. I went back right there and then. I stopped my book 5 read. I went back to The Eye of the World, started book 1 over again, and read all 4 books. Then The Fires of Heaven. An amazing experience. First of all, the first 4 books, they opened up in brand new ways for me. Incredible. And then when I got to reading book 5, oh, the wait was so worthwhile. Thus, patience, learning to wait for the gratification that I wanted, building up to it in a better way. And boy, did it deliver. Of course, The Wheel of Time taught me patience in 2 other ways. One, I had to wait longer and longer and longer for the sequels as Robert Jordan went through the series, including waiting 4 years after he died before the 3 final books started coming out. And part of that time, I didn't think I'd ever see the conclusion to The Wheel of Time. 2, I had to learn to use my time well while practicing patience. This caused several Wheel of Time rereads. Besides getting that richness and enhancing my appreciation for The Wheel of Time, I had to do other things, so I found other books. I went and used those gaps to discover other great works of fantasy and science fiction, a great use of my patient waiting time. And my life is richer because of it. Life lesson number 2, endurance, the importance of endurance. Working through a 15-book series over a period of 21 years is no simple task. It takes endurance. The books came out over 23 years, but I didn't find them until 1992, so I can say 21 years. And I will lean into the importance of endurance when I think about going through books 8, 9, and 10, which we in the fandom lovingly refer to as the slog. Readers who experience these books for the first time now, when they can just read right through them, they can find these particular books a little bit of an annoyance, but they can keep going. You've got Perrin's ceaseless angst. You've got tiresome Andor politics. The slow progress of Egwene and the Aes Sedai. Stuff that just goes on and on and on, and you just want it to progress already. Trust me, as annoying as that might be to readers these days, it was a whole different level and took some real endurance to push through when you'd get to the end of one of these books and there was nothing to move on to. It's like, I am not satisfied with what I just read, and now I just have to wait. So after reading Book 8, The Path of Daggers, we waited 2 years for Winter's Heart, which was more of the same lack of substance until the end. The end of Winter's Heart is one of my favorite book endings in the series. But then we waited 3 more years after Winter's Heart until Crossroads of Twilight comes out, and the first third of the book is just rehashing what we already know from Book 9, but now from different people's perspectives. Endure. And then Robert Jordan only makes us wait a year for the next book after Crossroads of Twilight, and it's a freaking prequel. I was so ticked. I did not want a prequel. I wanted to advance this story. I needed to know where we were going. He sends us 20 years into the past. But I endured. We fans endured. And eventually Jordan delivered unto us Knife of Dreams. Delicious book. Finally advances some key plots and moves us towards what we can know is building towards a big finish. And we did eventually get that big finish, but it took a little more endurance. One last book turns into 3 mega Sanderson-sized books, and a 3-year delay between book 12 and 13, then 14. So we get book 12, and then 1 year, 13, and then 3 years for A Memory of Light. But life lesson, endurance is worthwhile, for the rewards awaiting those who make it to the end are glorious. Life lesson number 3, the humility of selflessness. Now, this one's a little more of a serious toned life lesson. I'm literally humbled and awestruck at Robert Jordan and how he spent his last days. If you don't know this yet, Jordan, whose real name was James Oliver Rigney, was diagnosed with a terminal illness just 6 months after that 11th book of the series, Knife of Dreams, was published. When he intended to complete the series with just one more book, and he'd already been working on that final book. His particular condition, his diagnosis, was very serious. It came with a life expectancy averaging about 4 years with treatment. Jordan soon began treatments to try and help give him the best possible life outcome, but unfortunately, his body did not respond as we all would have hoped, and he was gone in just a year and a half. Incredibly, throughout his illness, Jordan kept his passionate fans in mind. He worked on his final book to some degree, as his illness would allow, and he wrote parts of it that are included now in those final 3 books. And as the disease progressed and it started looking more and more dour, and he was hospitalized, he made efforts to share the key elements of the conclusion, the way the series would wrap up, things that were only in his head. He shared those with his inner circle. He made sure the people close to him would have the knowledge written down, dictated, recorded, so that someone, if the worst happens, somebody could finish this series for the fans. Literally, there were people at his bedside still taking down notes the day before he passed away. So right to the end, he was still making sure we got the things he wanted us to know. What a gift. A final book that Robert Jordan would never benefit from, yet he still poured himself into it. He saw to it that we, the fans, would be able to enjoy and appreciate the end of this tale that he had crafted for us and wanted to deliver. Completion to all these rich storylines, the payoff for all the characters that we'd come to love and dislike in some cases. He was still thinking of others, even as he was losing his life. It's humbling and very inspiring. That kind of selflessness is something to aspire to. Okay, my final two life lessons, shorter than the first three. Let's get to them. Life lesson number 4, we're better together. For the first decade of enjoying the Wheel of Time, it was just me and these books. I didn't know any other Wheel of Time fans. As the internet slowly became a part of my life, it never crossed my mind to use it to try to find fans who I could connect with. Nope, I was in chat rooms talking about stupid trivia things. I wasn't looking for Wheel of Time people. In fact, to find a person who I could actually finally share my interest in these books, I had to grow them. Yep, my son Zach. When he was a preteen, I encouraged him to try these books. No, they weren't done yet, but they were getting close. He gave it a try, but it wasn't quite his thing yet. But he did come back to them when he was older, when the series was concluded. And he eventually read them, a couple false starts, but once he finally got into it seriously, the books took hold. And he finished the series, and it became one of his favorite works of fiction. And it's something we can now talk about again and again. And of course, if you follow our Wheel of Time deep dive content here on the channel, you'll understand we do that. We talk about these things again and again. Being able to share this with Zach has made the series even better for me. Great books are better when we can share them with others. And then in 2020, I started discovering the online fandom. Finally. At the end of the year, Zach and I started Fantasy for the Ages. And we started connecting with content creators out there in the Wheel of Time community. And wow, all sorts of Watt fans have become part of my extended community. Some of them kind of like my family. And then we went to our first Jordan Con. I'll be going to number 4 this year because these are people I love to see and connect with again and again, and they've made my life richer. They've made the Wheel of Time better, 100%. So we are better together. Heck, just having people I can share a passion like the Wheel of Time with makes the experience 1,000% better. Now that brings me to life lesson number 5. Persistence pays off. Because after over 30 years of enjoying these books, I finally got my wife to read the series last year. And she thoroughly enjoyed it. Is she the level of fan that I am? No, definitely not. But she did enjoy them. And now we can talk about them anytime. We have another common point of interest to share. And we can enjoy, or try to enjoy, the TV adaptation together. It's been great to have one more thing to share with my wife. I'm super glad I was persistent. I didn't give up. I kept encouraging her, not bludgeoning her with the books, but saying, hey, you might want to try these sometime. And finally, she did. It's made her life more enjoyable because she got to enjoy the Wheel of Time. And with that in her repertoire now, it's something else that we can enjoy together. It's just awesome. Persistence pays off. All right, there you go. 5 life lessons that simply reading the Wheel of Time reinforced in my life. Now I'd love to hear from you. Do you have additional lessons that reading this series imparted to you, or other lengthy epic works like reading Malazan Book of the Fallen, The Dark Tower, or the Books of the Cosmere? Have they taught you things, wisdom you would impart to me now? Put them in the comments. I'd love to see what you've got. And for more conversations about books and their impact, be sure to subscribe to our channel, click that bell for notifications of new content, and check out many of the videos we have waiting here for you. There are hundreds already. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.